Hello everyone, John the Morgile here, checking in for a new static planar Earth video for you. I hope you do enjoy it. If you are a globe Earth believer and have yet to reconsider your paradigm, I implore you today to do yourself a favor and apply some healthy skepticism towards the popular belief system involving a spinning ball Earth. The ball Earth deception indeed falls apart under rational, skeptical, healthy scrutiny. It is a lie which must be foisted upon youngsters during our very formative years so that we're unable to rationally defend ourselves against its absurd tenets. From the lack of geological curvature and absence of axial rotation to the insidious antics used to foment the ubiquitous belief in a spinning ball Earth, during the past few years, we truthers have exposed the great deception which has fooled the entire world, even the very elect, for a very long time. But not anymore. Now we live in the age of revelation, wherein the Holy Spirit of discernment has been rekindled after generations of dormancy to reclaim its authority over the world, seeing all manner of deceptions crumbling under the light of truth and the Holy Spirit of rational discernment and reliance upon our God-given logic as the metric for our subscriptions to reality and actuality. The globe Earth is, sadly, a lie. The fact that we're taught to believe certain elements of observable reality, say circumnavigation for example, as being exclusive to a ball Earth is very telling. They tell us and convince us, really beat us over the head with the notion that circumnavigation exclusively proves the world as a globe, as if no possible scenario allows for this but a spherical Earth. Well, central north on a planar Earth easily allows for circumnavigation, simply crushing the notion of circumnavigation and a planar Earth being somehow mutually exclusive. Why would they do that? Why would they ingrain into the standard curriculum of the world's youth a lie about only the globe Earth exclusively allowing for circumnavigation and nothing else? For those with ears, let them hear. Similarly, we're led to believe that the concept of a flat Earth is silly, and that before people were graced with the knowledge of a sphere, they thought they would fall off of the flat Earth if they sailed too far. This is yet another lie, as the physical plane extends far beyond the reaches of our measly civilization. There is probably no edge to the Earth, as the physical plane could potentially continue infinitely, and the realm within which we dwell is merely a geothermal magnetic pocket, not a disk in space, or a sphere in space, of course. For those with eyes, let them see. The northern hemisphere is very similar on flat Earth and sphere Earth, comparatively, and historically, modern civilization finds its roots in the northern hemisphere. The ancient Greeks, the ancient Chinese, Middle Eastern, and Indian cultures rich in astronomy and other science arts historically were well established in the north, and in the southern hemisphere was mostly out of reach, astronomically speaking, to modern civilization's roots. Certainly the South American pyramid builders were astronomical aces. However, our modern culture doesn't borrow much from their ancient civilization's astronomical work, quite the contrary indeed. The Romans, Spanish, and other European conquests found themselves all but destroying the language and cultures of the Maya and other such South American civilizations. Although the Southern Hemisphere is where the two models must necessarily depart any similarity, how many of us out there have explored the vast seas of the far south and compared the distance entailed within a degree of longitude at different latitudes to similar degrees in the north? I, for one, have not. However, there have been exactly such endeavors executed and documented by mariners in the past, which was picked up by flat earthers and published in the late 1800s and early 1900s. While there are many dedicated flat earthers who feel the azimuthal equidistant projection is not a satisfactory representation of the entire Earth, it must be admitted that it must be at least fairly close to correct, and for a few reasons. Our modern culture indeed has a firm grasp on the general layout of the continents and where they lie in relation to one another. We know, for example, that North America is north of South America, Africa is south and west of Europe, while Australia is south and east of China. We know that if you head west from Europe, you'll arrive in America, and if you head south and west from America, you'll end up in Australia eventually. With that being said, the far southern latitudes hold the key to fleshing out an exact model of the Earth. While in the northern hemisphere there is practically no difference between the sizes and distances between the continents when comparing the globe with the AE projection, once you get to the southern hemisphere, there's a huge discrepancy between the distances from southern latitude continents like Australia, South America, and South Africa when comparing the globe with the AE projection. They simply cannot both be correct in terms of the globe and the flat Earth. One of the models must be wrong. Since we do know the Earth isn't a globe, then there has to be an arrangement of continents that adequately shows the overall layout of all the continents as they truly are in actuality. Now, of course, the globe demands that the southern areas must be relatively close together, with the South Pole being a necessary shortcut from far south continent to far south continent. On the AE projection, however, the southern hemisphere is an extremely vast area, many times larger than the northern central area. For example, southern Argentina and, say, the southern tip of Australia are extremely distant. Well, really, the furthest possible distance between two places on the map. If the flat Earth hypothesis is correct, you would expect to have shorter duration flights whenever your departure point and destination are in the northern hemisphere compared to flights when the two locations are in the southern hemisphere. And forgive the vernacular, because hemisphere does imply a globe. You could say central semiplane and outer semiplane, but we'll use the vernacular of hemisphere for ease of understanding. At any rate, actuality clearly and obviously lends itself to a flat Earth within an AE projection layout very well. Go ahead and compare flight durations when choosing flights from some random locations in different countries in the northern hemisphere, and you'll find extremely short flights, even from two northern points on opposite sides of the quote-unquote globe. On the other hand, the flight durations for southern hemisphere points are extremely long in duration as a rule, obviating the fact that the north is central and the vast south is exterior to that. Compare flights from, say, Argentina to Australia, or South Africa to Argentina, or South Africa to Australia. These are all extremely long duration flights, which consistently have durations expressed in 1 to 2 days, instead of hours when looking at northern flights. There's a great deal of what I now finally conclude, after many years of struggling with this, is undue angst against flat earthers who use an AE projection to demonstrate a possible layout of the flat Earth. I'm going to go on the record now and state unequivocally that the AE projection, while not perfect, is the best representation we have at this point, until in-depth geodetic surveying is done in the far south, which is made very difficult by things like the Antarctic Treaty. Again, historically, the northern hemisphere was intricately mapped from France to Japan, from Greece to India, and so forth, but not so much in terms of Australia to southern Africa to South America. In fact, it's claimed in Zetetic Astronomy, penned in 1865, that astronomical mapping of the northern hemisphere was merely clone-stamped for the corresponding latitudes in the south, so that the number of miles comprising a degree of longitude at a given northern latitude was precisely measured in the northern area and merely copied and pasted for the south in terms of number of miles comprising a degree of longitude at a given latitude. There is a great deal of historical evidence to support this claim, as mariners imbued with the belief in a globe Earth often found themselves at odds with their reckoning when in the southern latitudes. We know that circumnavigation is possible, and the northern stars rotate around Polaris, which is visible from all points in the northern hemisphere, which means the globe and the AE projection both work very well in the northern hemisphere, very similar to one another. And yet, some genuine, well-meaning flat earthers have gone so far as to completely abandon the AE projection and disown any flat earther who dares point to an AE projection for really any reason. To distance themselves from the AE projection, some have gone so far as to adopt and champion the Pac-Man-esque diamond-shaped model, where circumnavigation and solar cycles are possible by literally warping from the west side of the map to the east side of the map in order to stay as far away as possible from the AE projection because of some uncomfortable issues that arise in the far south. The fact of the matter is, in the south, there is no central star comparable to Polaris one can point to in support of the globe-Earth theory. If you study the footage of southern stars and compare to the northern stars, you'll find huge obvious differences quite easily. The stars appear to rotate around a central point for a time in the far south, but that central point essentially sweeps along with the direction of the stars near it, nothing like Polaris in the familiar northern stars. Counter-rotation of southern stars is quite simply a myth, and the astronomical symmetry demanded by the globe model of the polar stars simply doesn't exist as it does in the north. Those who have eyes, let them see. So why is it that the belief in a globe Earth is predicated upon tricking children with false absolutes and exclusives of the globe while simultaneously lying about the flat Earth, inventing bogus straw man arguments designed to make the concept seem stupid? These concepts are not actually associated with any arguments or models of the static plane Earth. The globe Earth is a lie, and the Earth is actually flat and stationary. Our culture would deem me mad and uneducated for making such a statement, but that is unfortunately untrue as well, for I am neither mad nor am I uneducated. Objects rise and fall according to their relative density or buoyancy, and there is no need for the theory of gravity to explain why objects remain held fast to the surface of the flat Earth, as it is necessary to hold such objects fast to the spinning ball in theory. Any child can tell you things fall down and helium balloons fly. Boats float on the water, but they don't float on the air. Density and buoyancy determine an object's level of equilibrium. Gravity is only theoretically necessary if you first assume the Earth to be a spinning ball in space, in which case the observation, "what goes up must come down," requires grandiose and complex theorem in order to seem theoretically plausible. Quite simply, the flat and stationary Earth supports the concept of what goes up must come down perfectly, without the need for any theories to explain it. Only upon the absurd and ridiculous spinning ball Earth must we jump through theoretical hoops and engage in mental gymnastics in order to explain how relative density and buoyancy work. As for the flights which occur too fast, say from Santiago to Sydney in about 15 hours, I must say that this appears to be completely doable even on the AE projection. I've never been to the southern hemisphere, however, cited in Zetetic Astronomy, written by Dr. Samuel Rowbotham, are mariners who sailed the southern seas and, with the belief, again, that the Earth was a globe, consistently found themselves experiencing southern seas which did not agree with the doctrine of rotundity for far southern latitudes. According to this source, the distance from the southern tip of South America to southern Australia was about 8,000 miles. Australia to the tip of Africa, 6,000 miles, and from the southern tip of Africa back to South America, another 6,000 miles. This isn't my claim, but documented mariners who sailed the southern seas and logged their journeys in ink is their claim. If this source is accurate, again the source being the book Zetetic Astronomy, then the flight from South America to Australia is somewhere around 8,000 miles long, which means the plane would need to average 530 miles per hour to complete it in about 15 hours. Totally doable. In reality, however, flights from South America to Australia often book out at about 58 hours up to 80 hours with multiple stops along the way. This is exactly what we'd expect upon the flat Earth with an azimuthal equidistant projection layout, and not upon a globe. On a globe, you'd expect to see the far south as the shortest distance between two far southern continents, as we do in the north. However, this simply isn't the case in actuality. Instead, we see, as on this typical flight routes map, the north is like a central hub, with the central north being the shortest path between distant continents, and the south being avoided as much as possible, for the vast southern hemisphere, or outer semiplane, entails the longest way round between two distant southern continents. This is simply not what we should expect to see upon a globe, and yet it is indeed the case in reality. The fact that circumnavigation is absolutely not exclusive to a globe, yet it is preached as being just that, plus the Earth displaying traits that are more in line with a flat Earth azimuthal equidistant layout and not a globe, should give any globbers out there reason to pause. Couple that with things like the Antarctic Treaty, which prevents free enterprise and governments of the world from exploiting the resources of Antarctica, thus keeping any real possibility of paving civilization in the Antarctic. We have a situation where the globe, yet again, falls apart, and however is protected by institutions. Remember, back in the early 1900s, the governments of the world were all extremely interested in Antarctica for its practically unlimited resources, which have been completely untapped and pristine for all of human history. Enduring multiple energy and oil crises, defying the narrative of overpopulation and pollution, let's not forget the oil spills and pipeline bursts in our proverbial backyards, and instead of subsidizing said valuable resources in the Antarctic for domestic use, the world governments agreed on making Antarctica essentially off-limits and illegal. In a world such as ours, where corporations are king, can you think of another continent that is off-limits for harvesting abundant natural resources, where laws prevent corporations from tapping into the wealth of the land? This was not to preserve the penguins' habitats either, but instead to ensure that the globe Earth remains plausible, for the keys to understanding the flat Earth more completely remain in the Antarctic, hidden from us, cordoned off in the central north. The simple truth is, the maps have been manipulated using many tricks, including things like magnetic declination and other sleights of hand, the AE projection notwithstanding, methinks. While the AE projection is probably very close to an accurate overall depiction of the realm's landmasses, it seems that the Antarctic and the far south hold the key to fully understanding the flat Earth and making a model that will stand up to all scrutiny, which is why it is so important for us to nix the Antarctic Treaty and begin to explore the true frontier. Circumnavigation is only possible from east to west in reality, and transpolar navigation is only possible in the north. This is why northern circumnavigation is so common, and southern circumnavigation never happens in terms of transpolar. The only evidence for far southern circumnavigation are flimsy nothing burgers like the Antarctica Cup Challenge, which entails a circuit which adheres to the 50 degrees south max and do not even approach the Antarctic Circle, and of course are oriented in an east and west fashion. Again, the Antarctic Cup Challenge is mere east to west circumnavigation, and in fact the duration of the race lends itself to the AE projection layout upon a flat Earth due to the sheer duration of the race. So what is the motivation for them to lie about the shape of the Earth? This seems like such a ridiculous thing to trick children about, and a waste of one hell of an intricate hoax. The truth is, the entire modern paradigm is built upon the belief in infinite space, wherein the Earth is a mere speck of dust which formed incidentally by chance and chaos. The human race and our entire history is merely a freak accident of nature caused by chemical reactions long ago in the primordial ooze. There is no intelligent design, no creator, no Most High, and no sacred spirit within us connected to the Creator. cold, random chaos and chance are the god of the atheist society, which has been chipping away at our natural relationship with the divine creator of all things, has its sights on murdering our faith and sapping our spiritual power by convincing us that we are somehow separate and organic as opposed to connected spiritual beings. In truth, the motive for the great deception, which deceived the entire world for a very long time, is extremely insidious and equally simple. The physical plane was created by an intelligent designer whose consciousness is everywhere around us, within us, and while we exist within the Creator, the essence of the Creator exists within us. The celestial lights are his signature. The mysteries of the sun and moon prove the Creator's vast superiority, immortality, and timelessness. The earth is an extremely special realm which exists between the heavenly, ethereal planes of non-physical consciousness and the super-dense planes of the deep beneath us. Human beings operate both within the physical and within the realm of consciousness. The globe Earth deception has tricked us into a state of disharmony with the Creator and vastly underestimating our potential. The new religion of scientism would have us believe that our world is unremarkable and insignificant in the grand scheme of things, and we find ourselves a mere chemical incident evolved. If the world were to cease to exist this very instant, it would make no real difference in the grand scheme of things according to the standard narrative. In truth, the world is the physical plane of reality where the spiritual consciousness, intelligence, mystery, and love mingles with the physical elements through our life experience. We are the embodiment of the Creator of all things, experiencing the creation firsthand, and thus we have an extremely special and unique role to play in this life. Wicked spiritual forces have turned our existence into a sort of rat race wherein we compete for resources, real and imagined, and see ourselves as separate from the world and separate from one another. And when I say things like imagined resources, fiat currency would be top of the list. At the end of the day, I pray that this video will incentivize or motivate some of you still clinging to the belief in a globe Earth to revisit that belief and apply some healthy, skeptical scrutiny towards that belief. I can assure you it is not a waste of time, and the essence of science is to question everything. Try to debunk standing theories, and you will only find yourself closer and closer to the truth. So, thanks so much for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you'd like to help me continue this channel, please consider becoming a channel supporter. Links in the description box below. I also have some the Morgile Flat Earth merchandise wear. You can find links to that below this player window on YouTube. So with that, God bless you guys. Love you all out there. And as always, spread the word, spread the world, and peace out, everybody.